Dr. Lisa Farmer from TherapyCharts.
Hi, how are you, everyone today? I'm Ryan, and this is Dr. Farmer down here in the front. I'm the CIO and General Counsel, and Lisa is the CEO and Clinical Psychologist. You can check out our website anytime, TherapyCharts.com. Join us on Facebook, TherapyCharts. We need more buddies. And as we go through the presentation today, just remember, if you bump into some clinical psychologists who need our stuff, you can give them the discount code A2Meetup, and they'll get a discount on the software. So the basics are answered by that old English 5 W's and the H. So who we're targeting is psychologists, therapists, and other mental health workers. And what we do is we help them manage their legal compliant risks in terms of both HIPAA, which is a federal law, as well as insurance compliance for billing purposes, through organizing and maintaining the access to their electronic records. Where we do this is anywhere they like, in their offices, hotels, whatever, and any time of the day. And we do this because psychologists, in particular solo practitioners, are not well equipped with necessary legal backgrounds and software technology backgrounds in order to maintain compliance with things like HIPAA, especially moving forward with the push for electronic health records overall. And we do this because we created a software, web-based service, software as a service psychology practice management application that allows people to go onto the internet, log into a special website like you would Google Mail, and all of your charts and things are present there. You're going to see a demo shortly. As you see the demo, keep in mind that we had some product objectives that we were trying to keep the software on task and on target. These are the ones that we chose. User satisfaction was important to us because we care a lot about our psychologists and want them to have an easy time using the software. Robustness was highly important because of the nature of the data, as well as correctness. Defects is also minimizing those is important. Response time was important because we care about getting information fast. And then in the long run, we like good maintainability and extensibility. So on that note, I'll turn over to Dr. Farmer for a walkthrough of the demo of the website. And it looks like, for whatever reason, down here in the lower right corner, that's strange, the red channel's gone up there. But on ours, we have a red pop-up telling us that we don't have internet connectivity at the moment, and it will retry. So we'll try the tabs and see how they go, but we never know.
All right. So for those of you who aren't clinical therapists, I guess I'm also going to try to walk through this in the sense of what a clinical therapist would do during their day. Along the right-hand side, you've got the schedule, so they can add their appointments, see their entire schedule for the day so that they can keep themselves on track. What is most important to most clinical therapists is the progress note. That's the note that they use to document for the insurance companies and everyone else that they have actually seen a patient and provided a service. We've made it so that there's several ways to get to that document. You can either click on the person's name in the appointment scheduler, or you can get to it from a generalized, centralized patient list by clicking on that patient's name. Say they call you at 2 in the morning because they're upset about something. It's easier to find their name on the patient list, click on their name, and get your progress note up. When the progress note is up, we've made it so that it autofills the most pertinent places for
No internet.
my technical guy here.
Let me try resetting
Yeah, you do
connection
that.
to the wireless.
So the progress note that autofills select forms so that the things that the clinician has to fill in every time fills in automatically. So the appointment start time, the appointment end time, and the symptoms that the patient has, so that it's easy to track. With one click, you can say that symptoms have been maintained, improved, or deteriorated, which is what the insurance companies want. We've kept the progress and process notes separate. This isn't important to many of you because you're thinking, why is that important? But it is. Most states recognize process as the privileged information between doctors and patients, and so that can't be subpoenable. That is actually hidden under some encryption code that Ryan could talk about if he was so inclined, such that only the user can access that. If the user loses their password, we actually cannot access that. It is lost in its own little encryption file. We have medication and safety assessments. The objectives, again, for the insurance company, it's rated along 0 to 100. Insurance companies only pay when your patient is actually a medical necessity. And so they rate medical necessity as anything less than 70, so that keeps it easy for the clinician. It's all organized by this tab system at the top, so that when you get a new patient and you need to do an intake form, You can fill out a long, complicated history for the patient. Every 90 days, the system prompts you to review where you are. This helps especially with billing so that clinical deadlines aren't missed, and so the clinician can't accidentally not do paperwork and then not be able to get paid for their payment. Treatment planning is involved, and in talking with folks, we elected to use text fields rather than drop-downs because they found that a lot of the canned responses didn't fit their needs and sort of isolated what they could do with the product. I think one of the most important things about it is because it is a software as a service, we've got the buttons down here on the bottom where our users can submit feedback directly about the program. We monitor that feedback so that as soon as our customers are all requesting a certain feature, we can get our programmers working on that so that they can adjust to our consumers' needs. The refer a friend for viral marketing, and a message tab that allows us to send messages to our users, alerting them when we add new features and make changes to the program.
So if we go back to the PowerPoint slide briefly, so a lot of people ask us what the next phases are. The next phases that we have is a form printing phase where some psychologists, particularly for dealing with Medicare and Medicaid, need the ability to print out some of those forms. I know, it's depressing. I want it to be all electronic too, but the government kills it.
We're using 2D print.
Yeah, I can talk to her. Good point. And then group permissions.
Also, the forward-looking note on that is with the 2011 CHIT legislature, that may become a thing of the past as we are seeing more and more healthcare moving to electronic records.
We're planning on working on communication and group permissions to allow huge clinical labs to work together more like a hospital rather than a solo practitioner. Usability enhancements based on feedback. Adding additional redundancy in our HIPAA compliance elements, and then a whole laundry list of things here on the right-hand side. We'll just gloss over unless someone's interested in more detail. Most of the time for Q&A, we get some questions. So the first question is, when did you launch? The answer is at the APA, the American Psychological Convention, in 2009, 1 month ago. Do you have customers? Yes. Why do you have to enter a credit card when you sign up? Because it prevents fraud. If we didn't allow people, if we let them enter without entering a credit card, we could just get people signing up willy-nilly, and we need to create an actual contract between our firm and the psychologist to actually have a guarantee in order to protect their records and manage the risk that we're taking on for them.
Side note for me is that we also ask for the clinician's state licensure number so that we're also aware that these are actually clinicians.
Are we seeking investment? Sure, come talk to us. Are we seeking sales reps or business development people? We love that idea. Please talk to us later. Do we have partnerships with other companies in the psychology field? No, not presently, but there's talk about maybe integrating with some billing people. What is our technology stack? It's Linux, Apache, Python, and PostgreSQL. And why is HIPAA so important? Because you've heard us mention it 2 or 3 times. The reason is it's because it's a law that protects your medical records. You guys are probably all aware of one thing, that you have to fill out the privacy component that you sign every time you go to the doctor. There's a whole other set of legislation that's a technology component that applies when that doctor or psychologist is taking medical records in the electronic form. And then you guys can help us by telling all your friends about us and spreading the word to any psychologists they may know or psych students they may know, and getting them to sign up if they use the software. They can use the A2Newtech code so that they can get a little bit of a discount off the normal monthly price. So at that point, questions? We'll go with David here.
Lisa, talk a little more, please, about the 2011 legislation and the effect on electronic medical records industry.
The 2011 legislation is pushing for practitioners to move to electronic medical records, and they're offering financial incentives in the form of tax credits to any practitioner who is more than 80% paperless within their office. And so they're working on ballooning that into the behavioral health, because right now the only legislation is for the medical health.
Let's see, I think yellow, blue, you, and then you.
What is the monthly charge and what's your revenue model? And then following that is, how are you going to sell to individual clinicians?
Yeah, no, those are good questions. The first is it's $60 per month. It's a subscription-based model, kind of AKA like the Salesforce model, if you guys are familiar with Salesforce. And we just target the clinicians independently. We've done some marketing mailings. We've done some word of mouth referrals. We've got people at the APA convention who talked about it and signing up. So we are targeting the solo and small people first. And we'd like to branch out and start targeting the larger people, but it requires a few permissions to be done, things like that.
We're also working with universities, and so we're hoping that as we work with universities, the students will be starting to use the software, they'll get comfortable with it, and as they branch out into their own private practices, they may take it with them.
There's a lot of, I think, money being thrown around out of Washington and things like that around this. I'm curious to know just how much of an effect that's had on your business strategy and plans. Has it helped a lot? Have you been able to get funding and tell me a little bit more about that?
It's not directly eligible for any of that funding that's coming from Washington. A lot of it is targeting toward medical professionals, in particular like doctors who deal with broken legs, and they give them monies for EMR systems like ours. Every day the law is in flux, and they're always talking about new things. So I think coming in the next couple months, October, November, we're seeing some regulation falling into place, and the APA is pushing some action to try to get more particular rulings on things. So it's very possible that next year this time, it'll be very easy for a psychologist to get funding from Washington through one of these programs to subscribe to our service. But right now, things are very much in flux.
From what I can guess, your revenue is based on service, right? So, and you don't really have much of IP in it because it's a website which you guys designed for therapists, and so how do you protect your competitive advantage?
Well, actually, we're working on a patent right now. There's some core technology that's underneath here on how we manage the risk of them and how we manage the different pieces of information, giving access to people who do. And so we're working on patent protection. So I guess that's one part of the puzzle. Even if that doesn't come through, I still think there's the competitive advantage of aggregating it all into one place and giving the risk-shifting element of taking on the risks that these professionals aren't normally set up to handle.
You talked about form printing.
Yes.
And then you talked about 2011 and something else coming along. So is that going to be electronic shipping? Is that their industry standards for that? Are you involved in that? Or do you have to react? Do you have an early look, or do you have to react? In other words, if I'm using it and the government drops something on the industry, how soon will your software as a service adapt to that?
Well, our intention is to adapt as quickly as possible. A lot of the stuff we kind of see coming in the pipeline, but the particulars aren't worked out. That was kind of like one of the gentleman's tiniest question. It's just too early to say. Like even last week, they were having negotiations about meaning of this, like there's two words in a law, and they were debating it for weeks on end. So I hesitate to say exactly what we're going to do, only because I'm not sure they know exactly what they're going to do.
The good news is that the medical community tends to come first, and so we can look at the requirements for them and kind of extrapolate what may be given out for the behavioral side of things. So it is I guess, a perk of being a second-class citizen within the medical world.
And I think Doug said I had time for one more, and I don't remember who was up. I think it was the gentleman up there in the black.
Yeah, you want to use a credit card to access the information. Why would you do that logically versus using like a password or access code that you can kind of mandate what type of the number of characters you use?
Oh, the credit card is just used for billing. It's how the psychologists pay us.
Oh, okay. That's the only way you're going to bill it through the credit card?
That's our current approach.
Oh.
If you came to me with like 100 psychologists and they wanted to pay by check, I think we'd probably work something out.